Hello, Tiffany here with Cards Crafty Creations. Today's project is with Pajama Crafter Stamps using this Funny Bunnies stamp set. So this stamp set actually released last month and it is so super cute, and I knew I wanted to make stuff with the bunnies, which I have made already with the bunnies, but when I was trying to come up with an idea for this, I kind of had this vision of these bunnies inside like a carrot patch or like a garden of some sort, and then one of them would be just very moody because the other bunny's having a really fun time bouncing in the garden, and then the other bunny with the glasses is just kind of, I think it's a kind of a goofy rabbit, and I think it's just being goofy, and that's probably annoying the other bunny also. So that's kind of what my vision went to when I was looking at this stamp set. And I wanted to try and, like I said, make a kind of a garden for them to be in. And I wasn't really sure how I was going to go about it. I already knew I was going to use some of my flower and plant dyes from Tim Holtz, but I just wasn't sure what I was going to do color wise. So I thought of doing the color water smushing technique, whatever it is called, where you just do like a bunch of watercolor of different types and colors. And I thought that would be really good for this because that would give me a whole bunch of different tones on the same page that I could then cut the die cuts out of. So I first attempted to do it with a paintbrush, and that was just not, it wasn't doing it for me. It wasn't getting enough paint down or ink down, and it was really bothering me. And so then I just kind of wet my, it's just a picture frame that I use my watercolors on. And so that kind of worked, but it really wasn't saturating the paper as much as I wanted it to. And this is watercolor paper, so it really should have taken the pigment, but it wasn't. So then I switched over to just using distress sprays. So these are like super old. These are the distress stains that have like they have daubers on them, and then I've poured them into little spritzing bottles from Tim Holtz. Well, it's Ranger, I think, but it's his brand. And I just use those to spray on some of the distress stain, and then moved it around with my paintbrush and sprayed it with water and let it run and pull up, and just trying to get some variations of color and texture so that when I do die cut the I guess they weren't really flowers, they're more like leaves and like stalks. So when I die cut those out, then you have the color variation in different areas, as you could see. So after I had done that, I let them dry, and they actually ended up drying flat, which I was very grateful for because they were rolling up quite a bit with all that water on. And then I just took the die cuts and cut them out. Now, when it came to the bunnies, I kind of like was very haphazardly painting them, kind of using the same thing, the distress ink and a water brush, but I was not so interested in filling in the whole space. So I was kind of dabbing the ink down and just not even worrying so much about covering. It was more just about getting layers of color down. And once you could get the first layer of color down, and then that layer would dry, you could put a whole nother layer on, and then you could start building your shadows and stuff. So that was kind of like my idea, to not really worry so much about making sure it was all colored in solid or anything. And I even went so far on these rabbits, these bunnies, to use unconventional colors on them. So this one, I mean, it's a brown rabbit, And as also when it dries, you can put more layers on, and even those layers I didn't have solid either, so they're kind of like spotted bunnies. And I thought that was just kind of a different approach to watercoloring these. You didn't have to be so precise. It's very loose, and I just like the way it came out. So I mean, I would use this technique again. But back to what I was saying about unconventional colors. So I have 3 bunnies. So I have these 2, and the moody, grumpy one is brown, and this one's gonna be gray. And then the other one with the glasses, I believe I did as like a tan color. But I wanted to add the shadows to it, but I also really wasn't sure what to do with like the middle of their bellies and their tails. And so on this one, I happened to just have the pink distress ink. I can't remember what color that is, and I can't read it right now. I had it on my palette because I was using it for the gray rabbit, and then I was like, well, I'm just gonna use it on the brown one too. And so I ended up pulling the pink into the brown rabbit as its tail and the center, which is very unconventional, but I'm not mad about it. So I think you can absolutely do things that are not conventional and still have and produce a good outcome with it. So that's just something to keep in mind. And so I'm just putting in some more shadows on the little gray bunny, and then I will bring in the pink to do its ears and I don't know, and its feet, I think. I don't remember what I did with its belly. I guess we'll find out in just a second. But after I do all the watercoloring and I get that to dry, then I'm going to bring in a marker, and we're going to add some stippling shading to this, which I believe I've talked about stippling before. And that is essentially doing a lot of dots in the shadow areas, and they are closer together in the darkest part of the shadow, and then the dots spread out as the shadow becomes more brighter. And so that was kind of what I was doing here. So actually all of the bunnies are going to have that loose watercoloring with these dot stippling shadow parts to them. So, but I think that the bunny that I just used the pink to do its accent, I think it kind of came out fairly cute. For it kind of lightens up the moody bunny a little bit, gives it a little more interest and character. And then this rabbit bunny is my favorite. He looks like he is just having the greatest time in all the world. And so you're gonna see him having the greatest time as we start putting this project together. And so after I do the stippling with the colors, and then I use my white gel pen to, do those fancy highlight things we all like to do on our stuff. Oh, and then I did this on all of them. I got a multi-liner, like a fairly thin one. I can't remember what, maybe a 3, I think 5. I think 5 would be too big. It might be a 5. And then I kind of haphazardly again traced the rabbits. So now they actually don't look like stamps. They look like I sketched these rabbits instead of, so it almost looks like I was the artist, even though I was not. And it looks like I drew them. Because actually, my preferred method of drawing things is sketches. Like, I prefer, if I had to choose like an art I would do all the time, it would be watercoloring with sketches. So no perfectly solid lines at all. Various thicknesses of sketched lines and haphazard watercolor. That would be my everyday medium creativity artistic choice. But there are still so many artistic choices out there that I probably couldn't just stick with one. That's the reality of me. So what I decided to do was I'm going to kind of build this little scene on, this is just a piece of wood I got from Hobby Lobby, and then I just stained it with some brown stain. And then I have a whole roll of this faux grass paper. It's part of miniature stuff, like from Michael's ages ago, literal ages ago. And this is like the first time I actually even opened it up to use it. But I thought this would be perfect because it's gonna give us like a ground to work on and an ability to like keep the scene condensed in a way. Like, I'm not going to put things like on the wood part. We're gonna put this fake grass sheet down, and it is textured. It's very like felty like. It's not felt though. It's like, it is miniature like grass. If you mess with miniatures, you know what I'm talking about. But we're gonna put this box, which the box is actually Tim Holtz, one of his vignette boxes, I think it's called. It's nesting, I don't know. Had it forever too. We're gonna glue that onto the grass, and then we're just gonna like kind of build the scene in the box and like on the front of the box. And so in order for us to make this look like a garden box, like a raised garden box, for those of you who garden and grow vegetables and fruit in the summer, raised planter boxes is like the way to go. So what we're going to do is get into my box of moss, different moss, and kind of build it up. And I really did not care what the bottom part was. I looked for like foam or something to put in there, just to build it up, because I really didn't need the box that deep. And I couldn't find anything, so I just used this cream colored moss that I had that I don't use that often. But we're gonna do that to build it up, and then I have this like grass moss. I don't know how to explain these things. I just go to the moss section, and they have all kinds of different options, and this is one of them. So I thought that would be cool to have like the green grassy type moss, and then we're gonna put in our plants, and I have some little carrots we're gonna stick in there, and that's gonna cover up all of the tan, so it's gonna just look like a grassy box, I guess. Well, it could be like the tops of carrots, maybe. Like, it could look like that. It could look like, yeah, we're not gonna think it's like moss. We're gonna think it's like the tops of carrots. And so now I'm gonna get the dies out. These are, remember, I used the paper that I painted messy and die cut them out, and we're just gonna kind of stick them in here. I didn't want them all super tall because I didn't want this to be super tall. I wanted it to be a very reasonable height for the rabbits we're dealing with. And so I do cut down quite a bit of them to make them shorter for this scene. And you can't see it, but off camera I have my glue gun, because I have the Ryobi glue gun, the battery powered one, and it's like lava, and I don't want to burn myself, so I usually just let it sit on my desk and I bring my project to it if I'm gonna be touching the product it's gluing, because I don't want to burn my hands. And so because this glue gun gets so hot, the glue literally runs out of it all the time, so all I have to do is like put my piece underneath it and it gets glue on it. So I will bring it to my project sometimes, but not when I'm going to be touching the item it's gluing. So anyways, I go ahead and glue the rest of these in here. I did put some on the front, which I wasn't sure I was gonna do, but I felt like I needed to kind of build up some of the front of the garden box because our Moody Bunny is going to be standing outside the box. And so I kind of wanted to build the scene there. So, and I really try hard to get this propped up in a way you could see it. I'm using like coasters and stuff, but it does keep sliding down. I'm not really sure of a good way to video when I'm making these dioramas like this, because you kind of have to have them at a certain angle to work with them, and my video camera is up above me, and so I haven't really figured out the best way to video something like this. So this is the best I got for right now. Anyway, so I did put one of the bunnies in there, the one that's silly with its glasses, and I put it in there with a foam square so it wasn't right up against the box, but it had a little bit of space between it and the box. And then the Moody Angry Bunny, I kind of folded it a little bit in half to make it kind of a round shape so that it wasn't just flat. It actually had like where it kind of looks like it's, I don't know if it does or not, but I didn't want it just flat. I wanted it kind of curved so it looked like it was actually looking into this scene almost. I know what I'm thinking. I just may not be saying it correctly. So I got some of my miniature grasses out, and I have some miniature flower bushels that I will bring in here too, because I thought that would add another layer of texture. I really, you know me, I like texture, I like dimension with my projects, and so I thought that would be good. Gives us some height, it gives us another element. And then these are the flowers that I have. So these were way too small for me to take them to my hot glue gun. I definitely burned my fingers with that. And then I had my stash of paper flowers. So I kind of just did a little bit of a scene on the front of the box, kind of to pull it all together. And now I have these carrots. These are actual, like, from Hobby Lobby. They are like they're toothpicks, long toothpicks that you probably use with like meat and cheese or something if you're hosting a party of some sort. That's what I see these as. And I just cut them off. I even like got my paint marker out and colored the stalk part green, or the leaf part green, whatever you want to call the green part of the carrot, the plant part of the carrot, I guess. Just so that, because they were all solid orange and I thought it needed to have that green, so that's what I did. And then this is the best part to me. I wanted him to look like he was actually jumping out of the garden, because he's clearly jumping and he's having the best time. I did have a lot of trouble gluing that in there. I would have done something a little different next time, but for right now, this is what we're doing. I just adhered him to a piece of acetate, and then I folded part of it and have to give it some more substance, and then I just shoved it into the moss as best as I could. Like I said, I probably would have done this a little differently, but this is how it's working for now. So I think it came out, it came out exactly how I envisioned it coming out, and him jumping out of the garden is just like so funny to me. And I just really enjoyed working with these funny bunnies. So I hope that you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please like and subscribe and leave a comment if you have any questions. If not, if you would like to check out Pajama Crafter Stamps, they have a lot of very fun stamps to check out. Alright, we'll see you on the next one. Bye!